Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 Millennium Dawn with me, Alpha Pi Omega, and Ukraine. So, if I'm not mistaken, this is episode 6. I'm starting a new session here, so I actually dug a bit deeper into some of the topics that we talked about in the previous session. Now, I'm going to unpause the game as we are just starting to get the cards production licenses, which will give us an extra research slot for our abysmal technological base to improve itself. But while we're running the game, I'm going to speak a bit about what I found out. So let's unpause it and have local protests immediately. Okay, so we can either crack down on them or let them protest. I need to be careful with the amount of protests that we're getting. Okay, I think we can still take it. Yeah, our stability of the regime is 60%, which is pretty good. I'd really like to disband the militia soon, but we're gonna wait a bit still until we get to at least, say, 80, because I would like to do that and then reign in Donbass. We're gonna see if that is going to be possible. Well, let's see. Anyway, as I was saying, I was looking at some of the topics, and the one that I would like to talk about today is corruption in Ukraine. So, I mentioned this topic before. There is a whole lot of information about it in the game. Just to refresh your memory, we have the judiciary system reformed and the anti-corruption plan. We also have the NABU. And I dug a bit deeper to it. I went to the web pages of the Ukrainian National Bureau against, well, actually, what is it, NABU? It's National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. Yes, that's the name. And I spent some time on looking at Transparency International and on Wikipedia and on some testimonies. And I have to say that the corruption in Ukraine is abysmal. It is abysmal even today in 2022. Wow, it's already 2022. I still keep thinking it's 2020. Anyway, even in 2022, the corruption is just awful. Now, I went all the way back and looked at how the Anti-Corruption Bureau was founded, and actually there's quite a lot of history there. Now, in 2004, the plan has been announced to fight the abysmal corruption in Ukraine, and it eventually led to establishment of the National Anti-Corruption Committee, which was led, I believe, by the President of Ukraine himself. However, this one was abandoned after the Maidan demonstrations and the annexation of Crimea, and in 2014 it was replaced due to it being a complete failure by the NABU, or the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. Now that one is pretty interesting because of a couple of reasons. Now, one thing that I found quite interesting about it is that it was mostly founded because the IMF, International Monetary Fund, because the investments from European Union and International Monetary Fund into Ukraine were at a big risk due to the fact that the corruption was so rampant. I'm actually going to pause it and speak about the events that we're getting after. Now, so the IMF and the European Union was one of the big reasons why this was founded. And while the National Anti-Corruption Bureau is a big institution, it has about 700 employees all across Ukraine, it actually has no power to prosecute, which is kind of interesting. They can just investigate and have to pass their cases, if they think they have a case, to a specialized anti-corruption prosecutor's office, which is basically a high judge position in Ukraine. And then this person, whoever that might be, is then free to prosecute the cases. Now, that is actually kind of interesting. I find that quite different from what's happening in my country, how the anti-corruption laws and the structures work. But another thing that I kind of found interesting, and I couldn't find a reason for that, is that the NABU is closely linked via an agreement with FBI, American FBI. So that's kind of interesting. They have sharing of information and kind of cooperate a lot. So that is something worth mentioning. Now, I'm not gonna go go into the depth of this. You can find that on Wikipedia, but there was a number of scandals surrounding NABU. Most prominent, what I found out is that I'm not sure how this is linked to the FBI. I don't want to, create some false allegations. But there has been several cases in Ukraine, scandals more like it, that pointed out to NABU being I don't know what the right word would be, influenced probably by the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. So make of that what you will. I actually don't know much about those cases. I can dig them deeper if some of you will have questions about it and try to read something and find something in English about it. But that was one of the scandals that was mentioned, and the second one was that the ex-president of Ukraine, and we have him now, Petro Poroshenko, was trying to influence the work of NABU by ordering them to drop some cases. So that was also kind of interesting to read, considering that it's an anti-corruption office. But yeah, the corruption in Ukraine is really, really bad. It is really bad even now, and it was much worse before. There is a statistic that is every year published by Transparency International, and it's mostly self-reported. That's one problem that I have with the statistic, but there isn't many objective ways to measure corruption. So it's a self-reported statistic when they go around the world and ask people how bad they think the corruption is. There is a whole questionnaire regarding this, and I wrote down some statistics from this. In 1998, Ukraine was 69th out of 85 countries. So it was one of the worst countries on this list. In 2009, when I think they had their worst result, they were 146th out of 180 countries. So they were deep on the list with countries, like Somalia and Democratic Republic Congo, somewhere in that area. After the founding of NABU, the numbers started to get better. And in 2020, they were 117th out of 180 people, 180 countries, 117th. So they're climbing. They gained about 30 places, but still it's pretty bad. Funny fact, 2020 is also the first year when Ukraine got above Russia. So it's the first year when that happened. Still, though, Ukraine is below countries like Zambia, Ivory Coast, and Malawi in the self-reported problems with corruption. So, yeah, make of that what you will. It's really bad. Now I'm gonna read these events, then I'm gonna unpause the game, and I would like to give my personal opinion on corruption because me being from Czech Republic, living right here, I have an interesting couple of things that I would like to point out. Especially for the people in Western Europe and maybe United States that don't have the experiences that we do here, because let me just read this. So we get two events. The first one was foreigners killed by jihadists in Nigeria. Scores of people have been killed or wounded following a jihadist gun and bomb attack on housing complex for expatriate workers. Nigerian security forces tasked with defending the complex reportedly abandoned their posts upon the arrival of the heavily armed militants, leaving the foreigners and their families to be massacred by the extremists. The Nigerian failure has been attributed to a low level of counter-terrorism training received by Nigerian security forces. The attack has shocked the international community while galvanizing radical Islamists across the region. The Nigerian leader, Ahmed McCarthy, has expressed condolences to the victims and their families, and has promised to step up measures to combat extremist militants in Nigeria and bring the perpetrators of this attack to justice. So Turkey, Afghan alliance, Iraq, and 19 others. Radicalization increased by a medium amount. United Kingdom, China, Canada, and 1 others. Manpower minus 10, political power minus 100. Oh wow. So there's a statistic for radicalization. Can we see that? Let's see, for example, Iraq, and see what... Nope, we can't see that anywhere. But I guess that's their internet. Wow, stability 29. We're doing better than Iraq. Hooray for us. Danish elections. Anders Fogh Rasmussen forms new government, I guess. Anders Fogh Rasmussen of the... Okay, I can't read that party. Western Outlook emerged victorious in the election, and with support from other parties in the government is now tasked with leading Denmark forward. But we should see that right here, right? Venstre. Okay, Western Outlook. Cool. So let's unpause the game and get back to the topic of corruption. Now, I was born in the year 1987. My birth certificate still has the Czechoslovak Socialist Republic on it. And I have lived through the 90s in Czech Republic. Now, one of the things people in Western Europe usually don't understand is the situation that has been present in the Soviet Union and to a big degree also in the satellite states. Now, Czech Republic also had its share of corruption. It still has. Just for comparison, in the year when Ukraine was 117th out of 180, which was 2020, Czech Republic was marked 38th. So we are in the upper quarter of, upper fifth of the list. You can say that, but still that is seen as high corruption. Now, I specifically remember one thing. When I was graduating from high school and I was preparing to the university, so there was somewhere around 2003, 2004, I read a detailed statistics on corruption as part of the preparation for my humanities studies and the historical studies. And one thing that struck me in that moment was that over 90% of the people that were asked in this questionnaire reported that they have personal experience with corruption, in other essence, that they have given a bribe, while 95% of the people said that corruption is a big problem in Czech Republic. So that was the biggest weird thing about it, that so many people, 95% of the people, thought that corruption was a problem, while 90% was giving actively bribes. While that might seem weird, I kind of understand where they're coming from, because from my generation, I don't know of anyone who would be bribing. I never did that. I never felt the need, and I don't think that it's so prevalent in my country anymore. But in the past, especially under the socialist regime, due to the lack of everything, and I mean everything, cars, apartments, toilet paper, whatever you make of it, people had to really try to get ahead of others. And you did that by social connections. You basically knew a guy that could do something. So you wanted a brand new car, and you had to wait for 2 years to get that car. It was cheap, but it took 2 years to get it. But if you knew a guy and you had a bottle of good wine that someone brought from somewhere and you gave it to that guy, suddenly you waited a month. And this mentality, I think, stuck with many of the countries. And the more to the west you go, the less prevalent that mentality is today. But I think that in Ukraine, it is still happening, because when you look at the questionnaires that I dug through quickly, and the self-reported corruption statistics that I have cited, you will mostly see that these things, the corruption, happen at courts, in healthcare, in tertiary education, so that would be universities, and when dealing with police. So there's exactly the things that I'm speaking about. Like, you want to get into a university, you can, but you need to know a guy, or you need to pay someone. You want to, I don't know, have someone from the police look into your case. Well, of course they will look into it, but if you pay them, they will do it faster. So this is the mentality that I think is prevalent in Ukraine, and from what I know, in Russia as well. And I wouldn't be much surprised that it would be Kazakhstan or Belarus, and all of these post-Soviet countries still struggle with that, which is something that many people don't understand. That while for us, or for the general mentality about bribing is, politicians getting millions of dollars just, to sign an agreement. And that's happening as well here in Ukraine, in Russia, everywhere. There's also this lower end corruption, which is the more widespread, which is exactly what we have here, the systematic corruption, where you just pay to receive a service you are pretty much entitled to anyway, because you want it better, you want it faster. So I think that's the biggest issue that Ukraine is facing, and there isn't much to do with that, because even I am familiar with a quote that has been cited thousands of times in Czech Republic every day when it was under the communist rule, which was, "Who doesn't steal from the state steals from his family." Basically meaning that you need to steal, you need to bribe, you need to steal, because otherwise you're impoverishing your own family. So yeah, that's all I have for the corruption in Ukraine. I mean, it's getting better, but even with the anti-corruption or National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, it's not great, and it's just very slow. I'm really interested in seeing, because one of the things that really changed the situation in Czech Republic, for example, and you can see the sharp decline in the statistics as well, was taking and incorporating the legislature, I think that's the word, legislature, basically the laws of the European Union, of free access to information, of publishing, yearly publishment of politicians' overall, what's it called? Wow, I forgot the word. Of their overall, Jesus, I can't English today. Basically, how much money they, of whatever they own, their personal houses and everything. So that needs to be public in Czech Republic now. You need to publish all the contracts that are in the public interest and so on. So if Ukraine, and there's a big debate about it today and started yesterday, would be granted the accession title to European Union, and basically they would become the talks would start with them about them joining EU, which is something that Ukraine has been pushing for over a decade now. I think that this would be good, because they would need to incorporate these laws into their own system, and that, believe it or not, is a huge difference. It makes a big difference, and there would be also many people from EU coming, changing the mentality of the people. So things like that would happen. Anyway, Hungarian election. Viktor Orbán forms a new government. Viktor Orbán from the Fidesz, Hungarian Civic Alliance, non-aligned outlook. Really? That's considered non-aligned. Oh, weird. Emerged victorious in the election, and with support from other parties in the government, is now tasked with leading Hungary forward. Oh, damn, I would be expecting him to... Damn. Well, Fidesz. We all know that party. It's kind of funny. Hungary is the only country that is not supporting actively Ukraine, and that actually said that it will not allow transports of arms and supplies. Well, actually, humanitarian supplies, yes, but arms and ammunition to Ukraine through its border. So that means everything has to go through Poland or Slovakia. I'm not sure what the stance of Romania is, but I heard that Hungary was the only one that actually said no. and I'm not entirely sure how it would go through Romania. It's basically coming from Germany, Czech Republic, Poland, France, so it would be going this way. So going down through Ukraine. Brazilian elections. Fernando Henrique Cardoso forms new government, Social Democratic Party with Western outlook. Good for them. Good for them. Brazil is an interesting country as well. I mean, their policies in the recent time are really crazy, but Jesus, they were always an interesting country. Anyway, I actually checked on the Kachin area. I don't know much about the history of Burma. I am not ashamed to say that, because that history, actually, sorry about that, if that popped up, is really, really complex. But what I read today was that the Kachin insurgency is basically 5 tribes that got together and started resisting the Burmese or Myanmar government, whatever you want to call it. And they have been waging a war for a couple of decades now. I think the conflict ended somewhere around 2011, but it had a number of hot phases from the late 80s, and it shouldn't be raging now, is it? No, it's no longer raging. Okay, so they signed a white peace. Kind of interesting, but yeah, it took them quite a lot of time to deal with it. The insurgencies were extreme, and they murdered tons and tons of people and killed, really a huge amount of people. There were, oh wow, settle down game. There were blaming each other with the usage of children as soldiers and systematic rape and all that fun that you usually get with wars in the less civilized nations. Anyway, research finished. Microcomputing. So, the theory of microcomputing, we've read that, and now the question is, do we want to go to improved computing, work a bit on encryption, or switch to... Which one did we want? We wanted the industrial electrospun polymetric nanofibers, yeah. 332 days, and this one would take 332 days. You know what, let's go with a bit more research boost. The 2005 is ahead of time, so we're going to go with improved computing, and then we're going to switch to something else. Computers are becoming more and more popular as time goes on. Computers can now sit comfortably on a desk, allowing for people to have the ability to play games, write papers, and many other comforts that people have never thought possible. So extra 5% to research speed. Now, research speed will be extremely important for us, considering how little we can research at once. So I still hope that I'm reading this one correctly. Now, we should get 2 off-map factories and 1 extra research slot, but somehow I'm not completely trusting the game's writing. Okay, Tony Blair forms a new government, Labour Party Western outlook in Great Britain. Good for him. So we could modify our government. How are we doing on money? I haven't really checked that. Well, not great, but I'm not going to raise the taxes more. Though we're actively falling a bit. I think that it might be a good idea to keep things a bit chill for now. We should get some political power as before we spend it all. So maybe we could keep it in the bank. Now I know that I wanted to combat the foreign influence, which I will, but again, all in good time. Okay, so we got the cars production licenses, and let's check that we got. Yes, we got the 2 off-map factories, and we got the extra research slot. Holy hell, that's gonna be great. Okay, so that one definitely goes to stereolithography. That's a weird word. Let's read what it means. Stereolithography is a form of 3D printing primarily used for creating models, prototypes, patterns, and production parts in a layer-by-layer fashion using photochemical processes. Oh wait, no, that's not the one. This one gives production efficiency and base. We want this one. Industrial electrospun polymeric nanofibers. Electrospinning nanofibers is... Did I read that? Electrospinning nanofibers is one of the most common ways of fabricating nanofibers. Ramping up production will allow us to produce more frequently. So this is really good. We need to improve our production. So now that we got the car's production licenses, now we want to go with something else here. Naphtha gas would give us extra production of oil, 4 of those actually. Ukatan naphtha would give us a refiner and strategic fuel reserve. We actually got 500,000. How much would that extra strategic reserve building give us? Can we check that? Fuel capacity 100k. Okay, that is not bad. That is not bad. Ruthenian steel. Actually, we're exporting quite a lot of oil. We're exporting quite a lot of everything. They've gained 2.1k. Current consumption 0. So there is no need for us to invest into this, quite honestly, because that doesn't really do us much good. What do you do? Base stability is lowered by 5%. Political power gain is increased by 15%. Production efficiency cap plus 5. Stability plus 3%. Replaces Orthodox Christian with Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Daily emerging support. Daily Salatis support. So if I understand that correctly, that would still drop our stability by a bit, but give us a bit more. So do we want to invest in National Academy of Sciences or National Revisionism? Seize power. No. We could go with these ones. That actually would be good. And I know there were 2 military factories we can get out of that, which is pretty good. Professional army, okay, and the extra research slots. So let's go with that. Lessons of Tuzla Island conflict. What does that actually mean? I don't know what the Tuzla Island conflict was. The Tuzla Island conflict occurred in the early 2000s over a small strip of islands between the Crimea and an island in the Strait of Kerch. Ultimately, the Ukrainian people lost the de jure land. It is now effectively Russian. Oh, okay. So that was before they lost Crimea. Cool. Insufficient resources. Yes, I know. But hey, our factories are chugging along. Okay, we're still losing money though. I think we really need to lower the corruption further, but I don't think there's much that we can do via the national focuses, is there? I don't think the Revolution of Dignity would do much. I think stability would help, but deal with the oligarchs. That would help. Economists recovery program. Privatization of state enterprises. Fight against the bureaucracy. Promote small businesses. Extra building slots. That actually seems like it would hurt us, because we would get building slots but not the actual factories to fill them. What about the Minister of Infrastructure? Anything here that would... If it would change what's your infrastructure projects or infrastructure projects 2. Okay. So infrastructure projects are what? Promised and propaganda campaign. there are infrastructure projects here, but no, those are infrastructure investments. Ministry of Infrastructure. Infrastructure projects. Do we have them here? Nope, that has to be infrastructure projects or infrastructure projects too, though. What the hell are they? That is a question. Tax cuts. Hold new elections. Jacques Chirac forms a new government. Western outlook in France. Good for him. What do we have the infrastructure project? I really don't know. If anyone knows what that means, please advise me. I am really not sure what that means. It's a bit weird. So okay, and good news is once we get construction 2, we can get construction 3. So that's going to be that one, and we're doing the data mining. I think I might actually. Well, we might do with the social machines, but I really need to redirect something into the production efficiency here, which is yeah, and the encryption and the land doctrines is just too much. Well, we're heading slowly for the extra research slot. What will we need? We can get the class 1 of the following. Yes, lessons of the Tuzla conflict. You require defensive revisionism. So we need this one, revive the Ukrainian Navy, and then we can get this one. The Ukrainian Navy is going to be cool, because that is going to allow us to better work with our ships. Hey! Nice, okay. We have upgraded the first ship to Krivak class 2. Hetman Sahaidochny. And you don't have a name? Really? Can we name you? Let's name you Pride of Crimea. To add an insult to injury. So we have Pride of Crimea. Oh, Czech election. Miloš Zeman re-elected. Okay, so yeah, the Czech Prime Minister is Miloš Zeman. We've been trying to get rid of him for quite some time now, and after he was done with this, he actually went and became a president, and then president again. This guy will never leave us alone. This guy will never leave us alone. Anyway, I think that's all for this episode. I thank you for joining me. I hope I didn't bore you with my long speech about corruption. It's all that I got prepared for today, because it was quite an interesting read, and I read quite a lot of statistics and topics about it, try to make it concise for you. So in the next episode there will be no talking, because this session I will be doing 2 episodes, but in the following one I'm going to in the following session, I'm going to have another interesting topic. Probably I'm going to look at that, what is it called? Tuzla Island conflict? Yeah, Tuzla Island conflict, because that's something that I never heard about, and I feel ashamed by that. I should know it. Maybe I do. Maybe it has a different name in my own native language, but yeah. Anyway, see you in the next episode.